All right, we have some more breaking news coming our way. Well, a US court has ordered Meta to pay an additional $567 million over allegations that the company failed to warn the public about risks its platforms pose to children. New Mexico Judge Brian Bedsheet described Meta as a public nuisance, comparing the harms linked to its platforms to pollution that needs to be controlled. The latest order takes Meta's total financial penalty in the case to $942 million. The judge has said that the additional funds would go towards efforts aimed at reducing future harm to children. Meta, which owns Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp and Threads, has rejected the ruling and said that it will appeal. Let me go across to my colleague Brian Thomas for more on this. Brian, this is yet another blow to Meta, taking that penalty up to $942 million. Brian, if you can hear us?
Am I audible?
Yes, you are now.
Yeah, but definitely, Meta definitely now suffered a major legal setback in the US after a New Mexico judge ordered the company to pay an additional $567 million over allegations that its platform failed to deliberately protect children online. Now, the latest ruling, combined with an earlier $375 million penalty, clearly takes Meta's total liability to $942 million. Very importantly, making it the largest child safety ruling over and that to even ever to be against the social media giant. Now, this was filed by the state of Law Mexico in 2013, long back, 3 years back, which accused Meta of exposing children to harmful content, sexual exploitation, online predators through its recommendation algorithm. Even in his ruling, Judge Brian Bedsheet described Meta as a public nuisance. Not only that, he also compared the company's platform to a factory whose pollution spreads psychological harm across the society. Now, yes, the recent ruling obviously speaks about the direction that the $567 million to be placed to a special fund to support mental health treatment, child protection programs, awareness campaigns and training for teachers, healthcare workers and even law enforcement. Yes.
Absolutely, and I want to understand, Brian, obviously Meta is also facing scrutiny in India. We are looking at some legal actions that the government also might take. We are seeing an apology that came in from Mark Zuckerberg because of technical problems they're facing. But is it time now, or has Meta in fact given out a statement saying that they will review their systems?
See, as of now, if you talk about what Meta has stated, Meta has strongly rejected the ruling and has announced that it will appeal. The company also stated that it has invested heavily in child safety tools and argued that the court's decision misrepresents its efforts to bring young users. Meanwhile, Meta also continues to face thousands of similar lawsuits across the US. Even a similar condition happened in India also, where Meta officials in India were even called to the METI office. Not only that, this is becoming the talk of the town at this point of time, whereas Meta has made it very clear that they are completely rejecting this very claim and they have stated that they will be appealing for this. Yes.
Absolutely, Brian, and also the fact that Meta, apart from India, it's also facing a lot of scrutiny in Europe as well. So in America, it is already facing legal action. In Europe, it is facing scrutiny because of a report that states that it allegedly encourages compulsive use, especially among minors. So that is something that even India is looking at. Brian.
Definitely, definitely. As of now, Meta has been facing such scrutiny all over the world, globally rather, if I would say, and this is a major setback that is coming back to back. Like you mentioned Europe, I mentioned US as of now. India also, in India also, Meta said that it happened by mistake, it was an accident. So there are many scrutinies that Meta has to be answerable about and has to speak about it. But as of now, Meta has made it very clear that if we talk about specifically the US that for the fund that they need to pay. They have rejected that very claim. Yes.
Absolutely, Brian. And when we're looking at these developments, if you can take us through what particularly the ruling has stated and why this is different from the previous fines that Meta is already facing over there in America. All right, we seem to have lost the connection over there with my colleague Brian, but remember that this Meta has also previously faced record penalties over privacy, competition and data protection, including the European Union's 1.2 billion euros fine. There is also the Texas multi-billion dollar biometric privacy settlement that Meta has faced earlier. But those cases primarily concern how the company collected, transferred or used personal data. Now we are looking at child protection safety. Let me go across to my colleague Rumi Mishra, who has more details about this case. Rumi, if you can take us through what went through this entire trial.
Shivani, well, this new ruling from a US judge in New Mexico, of course, has ordered Meta to pay another $567 million, which would be around 421 million euros. For its failure to warn public about dangers in its platforms. In fact, a spokesperson for Meta, which of course owns and operates Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp as well as Threads, has stated that, and I'm quoting them here, we disagree with the ruling and we will be appealing. They've also stated, and I'm quoting them here, we work hard to keep our people safe on our platforms and have been transparent about the challenges of identifying and removing bad actors and harmful content. Regarding the earlier $375 million verdict in the case, Meta had said that it intended to appeal the ruling and gave a similar explanation. So this is a trend that Meta has been following, giving explanations, being caught in the act, being caught making mistakes, giving explanations, and then appealing against verdicts that have been given against them. In fact, we recently saw Meta Zuckerberg apologizing to India, to the Prime Minister, not just for removing his video from Facebook for 6 to 7 hours, but also, in fact, promoting paid content during the CJP protests that were underway in Jantar Mantar. This New Mexico case, if we talk about it, it stems from a 2023 lawsuit brought by attorneys for the state of New Mexico, which was arguing that Meta should be held liable for the way in which its platforms endanger children and expose them to sexually explicit material and contact with sexual predators. In the first phase of the trial, in fact, Meta was also found to have repeatedly violated New Mexico's Unfair Practices Act as its recommendation algorithms essentially steered young users towards harmful contact and content. Shivani, this was also a point of contention for the Indian government as well. Remember, 3 pointers were raised against Meta, from the first one being the removal of Prime Minister Modi's video, the second one being this algorithmic bias, and the third one, of course, being related to child pornography and its propagation in India on Meta platforms. So this is very in trend with all the controversies that Meta has been facing, and in fact being held liable for these recommendation algorithms. Let me tell for our viewers as well, are the tools that Meta uses to automatically curate the content a user sees on its platforms. In a ruling on the second phase of the trial, in fact, the judge Baiched found that Meta's harms, in fact, reached the level of public nuisance. This is a sentence that he has used. Meta is public nuisance, or an issue of health and safety, and it has become so widespread that it is negatively impacting the general public and the younger generation. Yes, Shivani.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Rumi, for that detailed analysis of what's happening with Meta across countries and in India. Let me also rope in Mr. Piyush Bhardwaj, who's a cyber law expert. He is with us on this broadcast. Thank you so much, Mr. Bhardwaj. A very good morning to you. I want to first understand for you, how are you looking at this ruling that comes to the fore with regards to Meta? We have a judge in New Mexico stating that Meta platforms are a public nuisance and they are obviously concerned about child safety on those platforms, sir.
All I can say is that this is the most novel use of public nuisance law, whereby the observation are not only strict but very crucial in nature. The honorable judge has termed Meta as the platform for a factory that is advertising the product, the child psychological harm and sexual exploitation. They have considered this as a pollutant that must be abated. More so, it is also, this public nuisance law ideally was historically used for environmental pollution or, earlier tobacco only. But now this law has been repurposed to target the digital product design and algorithm, engagement loops. It is not for the first time that, a $567 million fine for public nuisance in terms of damages that has been considered by the honorable judge for the purpose that it has been causing psychological harm and exposing children to sexual exploitation on Facebook and Instagram. More so, a lot of chatbots were being used for underage children, less than 18 years, to be engaged in conversations with the chatbots that were sexually explicit in nature. More so, unlike the situation in India, the ruling has bypassed the standard section 230 protection, which was, to an equivalent of section 79 of India, which, gave a third-party immunity. More so, the honorable judge has also pointed out that the first-party product design and recommendation, the engines per se are, connecting to the content, which can be termed as adult predators to minor accounts. And this has been termed as something that has been defined as addictive design loops rather than user-generated content itself. Now it's the high time that the defense of an unregulated algorithm implications and engagements will have to be taken by these organizations in terms of social responsibility. More so, we are on the same footing by far that we have seen the engagements of content being pushed against the office of the Honorable Prime Minister. So I would say that it has been set as a precedent not only globally but for our country as well to deal with such situations.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Bharadwaj, for your valuable perspective on this issue. In fact, let me also